Well, hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Adam. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. So, back in the day, and yes, I'm that old, I can use that now. Back in the day, I lived my RC dreams one magazine at a time. I lived for every month when that RC Car Action and even RC Driver would show up in the mail and, get my months worth of RC entertainment out of that. There was no internet, there was no forums, there was none of this YouTube type stuff. Certainly was never going to see an RC on TV unless it was Christmas ads. And, the only thing I had back then was magazines and, Toy Store and Radio Shack type RCs. So, my budget back then was, nothing. My parents' budget back then was next to nothing. So, seeing RC10s and all these awesome cars in the magazines, it was all daydreams and hopes and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm 46 years old and I still do that today. I get the new RC Car Action magazine, especially the Christmas edition. That's going to be here any day now. I can't wait for it. I thumb through that big thick magazine all year long. Oh yeah, I'd love to have that, and then we'd put those shocks in it, and I'd run that motor in it and that ESC in it, and you just kind of mentally build stuff in your head. I'd get a kick out of it. I always have, I always will. But there was also the rationalist in me knowing that I could build a million different RC10s and Blackfoots and stuff like that in my head, but I knew my target was much lower than that of trying to get something. So one of the kits that I saw that was reasonably priced and looked really cool was the Mad Bull. Back then it was reasonably priced, and it still is reasonably priced, and looks really cool, and still looks really cool. It is a corny truck buggy thing. I get it. Some people hate it. Some people love it. I adore this thing. And I've been looking for one for quite a while. And recently, Fast Freddy got a kit. And, that kind of sparked my interest of like, I haven't looked for those in quite a while. Does anybody have any in stock? And I looked and I didn't see anything. And then for some reason, I decided about a week later, I went back and I checked. And A-Main had some for sale. Now, I haven't checked recently. I don't know if any's for sale, but I will put a link down below if there is some still left. Now, just let you know, it is an affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything else if you go there and buy the kit. They just pitch a few cents to me. I've yet to have anybody do it, so I don't know how much I actually get. It's probably going to be nickels, but, if you're going to get one, why not? Anyway, so they had this in stock, and I immediately scooped one up, and then they disappeared. But recently it looked like they did come back in stock. So I'm hoping they had got another shipment in and there's plenty to go around. So if you're interested, head over to A-Main. So this is on the DTO1 chassis. So it's the same chassis as the Ricky Rabbit, the Fighter RX, the Fighter RX Memorial, as well as the Mad Fighter are all on this same chassis. And it's kind of a unique chassis. It shares some things with kind of the Grasshopper land of cars, but has made improvements over that. So instead of it having kind of that floppy or just straight up and down rear end, it has a built-in center pivot. So it still allows the rear end to pivot side to side and go up and down, but it doesn't get that slap to it like some of the hoppers have, like the Hornet and the lunch boxes and stuff like that have those Hornet type rear ends that cause it to flip and slap forward before it goes anywhere. Front end is fairly similar to like the Grasshopper 2 as far as the wishbones and everything go. And then basically it's riding on lunchbox wheels and tires, kind of. So it is a buggy truck car monster thing. I don't know. But anyway, this was something that was in my wheelhouse at the time. It was something I could probably get my parents to buy, but never did. I ended up getting the Super Blackfoot, which, I think was probably a bit of a better purchase. But you know, I've always wanted one of these. I've always thought they looked really cool. And, you know, I know some people think they're corny, and I think that can be said about a lot of Tamiya stuff. But I absolutely adore it, and I'm really happy to have it. So I'm gonna get this thing broken out, and we're gonna lay it out on the bench, give you the overview of everything quickly. And then I'm going to get to building it because I'm really looking forward to it. Once I have it built up, we'll come back and take a look. Okay, guys, so normally I would just kind of pan over everything and show you, but I did want to get some up-close stuff and talk about a few things. So in Freddie's video, one of the things he noticed that the mat bowl instructions are very similar to the old Tamiya instructions with all the blue lettering and information in there. So I just want to let Freddie know the new manuals are, you know, that's the way they are. Again, it's not common for them to be like that. Normally there are reprints and all the interior is black and white, but this one does have all the blue little highlights and stuff in it from like the original. So I do kind of like that. Then we have the decal sheet, which, you know, is very unique to the Mad Bull with these kind of jagged, cool colored lines, which I think makes it really stand out. You got some of the interior chassis parts. Then you have the cool dark gray molded chassis. You got the big rear end, two-piece rear end, so it splits apart. Now, the arms, look at it, they are reminiscent to kind of the Grasshopper 2, to where the shock gets captured in here, and they're kind of downswept to give them a little bit more travel. But obviously, way different in design overall, but somewhat similar. So, like I said, don't beat me up in the comments on that one, but, you know, similar design, but not identical. Then we have your battery side pods, the covers, shock tower body mounts. Now this is the key piece. This is the little piece that allows that rear end, it goes right into that little hole, and it allows the rear end to tilt back and forth and pivot up and down, but doesn't get that front slap. So this is a critical piece to building. So the little axle rod goes right through there, and it allows it to pivot, but doesn't give it the slap. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is, for some reason, they decided to build the shocks for you, which is cool. But, you know, these aren't technically hard shocks to build. And eventually these will get replaced with oil-filled shocks. But for right now, I love the red, so we're going to put them on and run it stock with the red ones. And we may look to try to find either some red oil-filled or just go with some 5520s and replace these right out with just black CVAs. Body post and other internal bits. I don't remember what the hell these were. Oh, another cool thing is this is all pre-assembled for you. So you have your steering bell crank, your steering rods, and your knuckles already built and assembled, so you can't, you know, flip-flop things. You know, not that anybody like me would do that. Yeah, right. Nice beefy front bumper. Now, like I said, these are like the lunchbox wheels, but these have the 12 mil hex in the back, and in the front is just got the bearing holes. But they're basically the lunchbox tires and kind of modified lunchbox wheels to incorporate that 12 mil hex. Then you have your driver figure, of course, your gear set. So bag A is just a few screws, looks like suspension pins. Bag B is popping it open, but that has your axles in it, your rear suspension pivot rod, your pinion, some bearings, a lot of screws, the gears for inside of the diff. And in bag C, we come over, we've got the rear hexes, more assembly screws, more bushings and stuff. All that'll be replaced with bearings, and then the wheel nuts. And then this one is just kind of your utilities bag. It has your tool, little tiny tube of grease. We'll be adding more than that. Body pins and the sponge tape. Now, as far as the body goes, from there back, it's the Grasshopper 2 body. From there forward, it's completely different. So there's a faint mold line here where you can tell that they've adapted this new front end. So on the Grasshopper 2, your body mount hole is up here. This is smooth, and this is also filled in. So this goes all the way down. They made the cutouts for the shocks, moved the body mount back here, and underneath there's actually some reinforcement struts in here to keep that front end from snapping. and to bolster that body mount location, because this is rather thin right through here. It did come with the Hobby Wing 1060 ESC. Now it looks like they're trying to save a little bit more money, and they're not boxing it up like they were, which is fine. I don't care if it's in a box or in a bag, as long as I get an ESC. And just putting in the standard cheapy Metal Gear servo, knockoff Spectrum receiver, and we are going to build it with the stock Silvercan 540. I do have some sport tunes coming in, but I'm going to go ahead and build it with this, and we'll upgrade it down the road. Now, I didn't take a picture of the presentation, but it's presented fairly nicely. The wheels and tires are already mounted, and then you have two boxes. This contains all of your hardware, and then you have another box in there that contains all of your plastic parts. So that is all we're working with, and I'm going to go ahead and get this guy put together. Well, all right, we have a finished product. So you may be able to see it on camera, may not, but I did not go with the stock black paint. I started to, and it looked good. The gloss black looks really nice. But I recently saw a video from RC Dom UK, and he had done his in a similar finish. And I just thought it looked really, really awesome. And, it's not the first time I've painted something in this color. Did the Hot Wheels lunchbox in it, and then I also did something similar with my Black Edition lunchbox body. Black looks great, it's shiny, all that stuff, but sometimes it just needs a little bit of zhuzh added to it. And when I saw his on there running around, I was like, yep, gotta do that. So thanks, Dom. Appreciate the idea. So this one was TS94, the metallic gray, which is a little bit darker than the TS38, the gunmetal. So the metallic gray does have a little bit of metal flake to it, and it is a little bit darker than the gunmetal. They're close, but the gunmetal is just kind of that, silvery gray color, to where this does have a little bit of kind of metallic texture to it. So the chassis build, super quick. I think I was out here 2.5 hours maybe, and chassis was built. There's not really anything tricky or hard or difficult about it. Fixing that servo linkage, which if you guys saw in the picture, basically you just put heat shrink tubing over it. And the first time I did it, I cut everything perfectly to length, and it works, but after a little bit of driving, the heat shrink tubing pushes up a little bit. So this time I put a long piece and left it, maybe 1/8 of an inch long on both ends. Then I came back with two short pieces, put those over just the ends, and left them just a little longer than what I wanted, and shrunk those down. So when you put the arms on, you have to basically tip the rod in and bend it down, and it kind of hooks into the plastic piece. And if you saw in the pictures, and I'll put it up here, that bit of heat shrink tubing is kind of mushed now. So it's a really nice tight fit. So they can't, after it runs a little bit, it won't loosen up and get that play in there like it did. So it did tighten up the steering a good bit. So there is a little bit of play now, but nowhere like it is stock. That wheel would have been doing this stock. There is play in it, but that's the servo saver allowing it to flex. which is fine. You need a servo saver with these big Gigantor tires on here. You're gonna end up, you know, bouncing it around, and that's why I like these plastic shafts on here. Some guys don't like them because they do flex. I like them because you can smack into something and it will flex and, you know, go back to where it was versus, you know, bending. I know Craig knows about that. He has some bent, he has some very customized rod ends on one of his car. But, you know, I love the look of the buggy. It is awesome. The decals, you have to be a little bit careful on putting this one on and lining this one up correctly. Basically, you know, even to me it says cut these out with scissors completely and get one end started and work it around. What I did is I cut it out completely and I actually cut the paper out of this section here. And I was able to kind of loosely put it up on there, line it up with this cutout here, and roughly with the bottom edge here to get it on the right angle, and then stuck that center down. Then I peeled the little front piece off, stuck that, peeled the back piece off, stuck that, and it worked out perfectly. And kind of the same thing with this one is I left this part on the paper and this part on the paper, and I just cut out that little center section. So all you gotta do is just, you know, get the sticker peeled off, pull it off a little bit, and snip out that little section. That way I could get it stuck right here along that edge where it lines up, and then pulled off the front, lined up the rest of the sticker around this little cutout nice and well, and then was able to run it down the side up here as well. So those are the only two that are really difficult. This one, you just kind of have to, you know, peel the sticker, get it lined up, and then just drop it and smooth it out. Everything else is, you know, really simple stickers. You know, a little bit of lineup with this one and these two little tiny ones down here, but nothing big. Overall, decals were pretty easy to put on and look fantastic. And I just love the name Barf and Berry. I think that's kind of the most Garbage Pail Kids name that they came up with for any of their driver figures. Now, they all have, a bunch of them have silly names, but Barf and Berry is probably the closest to the old Garbage Pail Kids type thing from the 80s and 90s that I just love the name. So it does have friction shocks. So we are kind of bouncy in the front. The back's not bad. You know, it's mostly the fronts are slapping around. The back seemed to be pretty good. Now, for this one, you can put the 5520s and the 5519s up front, which I may end up doing. But for right now, I really love the red. So we're going to see how it drives with the red shocks on. And, you know, I may just leave it with the friction shocks. Now, as far as driving, that's going to be another day. We're just going to wrap this one up today. I'll leave you guys off with kind of just a little quick photo montage of the car outside, but we're not going to run it on this one. I will get back to that another day and have its own dedicated run video, and, you know, we'll get a lap time and everything for it out on the track. But until then, guys, everybody out there, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.